What's up, y'all? We are closing in on the end of the semester. It's crazy to think we're already halfway through the school year, and Christmas is practically here, and that's super exciting. Well, at Block Party, Rachel kicked us off in a new series called Messy Christmas, and we're going to look at how life can sometimes feel a bit messy. And so I remember a time in college when me and some friends decided we were going to go camping on the beach in Corpus Christi. We packed up my truck, we had our tent, our food, and everything else that we could need, and we set out for what we thought was going to be a fun weekend at the beach. Turns out, this trip would be the worst camping experience of my life, and it's the reason I will never go camping again. The first thing we do when we get there is we try to set up a canopy that we brought, and it wasn't happening. The entire weekend, there were wind gusts of up to 25 miles an hour. The canopy kept blowing out of the sand, and we would have to catch it so it wouldn't fly away. But you guys, I was determined to make this happen anyways. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to move my truck to block the wind, and lo and behold, it got stuck in the sand, which not only sucks, but we all know it's kind of embarrassing when a truck gets stuck. And we tried for an hour to get it unstuck, and we came to the point where I feel like I just had to gun it to get it unstuck, which worked, but for about 2 seconds, and then it got stuck again, starting us all over. And you guys, at this point, I'm getting just super frustrated. I just want a fun weekend at the beach, and it's turning into a complete disaster. And yes, it keeps getting worse. We had trouble getting the tent up because it was so windy, and we woke up the next morning, high tide had came in, and there was no more beach. Our tent had turned into a boat, and I'm just over it at this point. All of the elements were out of my control. Our situation was a complete mess. I couldn't keep it all together. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't keep it all together. And I know that's kind of a funny story, but don't our lives feel like that sometimes? All the different waves and winds of life are blowing around, making our life feel like a giant mess. All the while, we're doing everything we can to try to manage what's going on and use what little control we feel like we have to try to keep everything together. Well, here's the catch. When it comes to life, you aren't meant to be the one to keep it all together. Jesus is the one who keeps all things held together, and we need to trust him to do so. And so today, we're going to look at a story in the Bible with a man who tried to do everything he could to hold things together, and it just doesn't work. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 2 as we continue in the Christmas story about Jesus, but we're going to look at it in a way you have probably never heard of it before through the eyes of the king of Judea, King Herod. And so we know Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, right, during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, and as everyone was in Jerusalem. That's Matthew 2, verses 1 through 3. And so we see that Herod is king, right? He's ruling the land as the unchallenged authority in Judea. He has no opposition to his reign as king, and everything can be just as he wanted. Let's be honest. Sometimes, that doesn't sound too bad, right? We would love to have things just the way that we want them to be. That would be the life. But here's where things get a little bit hairy for Herod and why he's so disturbed. Jesus, he's the Messiah. He's the king of the Jews that has been born. And as a king, you never want to hear that another king was born because they would be a direct threat to your rule as king. Because we all know that two kings cannot rule over the same land. So the fact that this baby has been born and that he's already being called king of the Jews, that has bad news written all over it for Herod. And the last thing Herod wants to do is to lose control of his kingdom, his future, his wealth, his power, and we see that he panics. But before you judge him, let's take a step back and look at ourselves honestly, because in some ways, we try to manage the mess when we feel like we aren't in control too, don't we? When we feel like things that we want or we care about are slipping away, we try to do whatever we can to regain control because we don't feel like things are going out of our control. When things hit the fan, we try to be the one to fix it all, even if that means just white knuckling our way through it, because we want to be the one to have it all together. I mean, after all, that's what was happening with Herod. He started unwinding because he's trying to manage things and keep everything together as he is losing control. He ends up going to the wise man with a sneaky plan. Look at what verse 8 has to say. It says, "Then he told them, 'Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child. And when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too.'" So now, King Herod gives the wise men the task to go and find baby Jesus, and when they do, let him know where Jesus is so he can go and worship him as well. But I think we all know that's not what Herod really wanted to do when he found baby Jesus. Herod was only concerned with his life, his power, his authority, and his crown, and he would go to extreme measures to manage the mess and ensure that he didn't lose control. And we see that he takes extreme measures to remain in control when the wise men don't return to him. He realizes he's been outwitted by the wise men, which, come on, Herod, they're called the wise men for a reason. But after the wise men don't return, Herod sends out his soldiers to Bethlehem to kill all the boys that are 2 years old and younger. Yeah, that's a pretty terrible thing to do, and it's actually very sad. But Herod was so desperate to try to do everything himself and for himself so that he didn't lose control. Now, I want to make sure that we're really clear. I know King Herod's example is very extreme, but there's something in his story that we can't miss. Herod represents what happens when we try to be the Lord of our own lives. We want things to be the way that we want them to be all the time. We want to do only what we want to do when we want to do it. We want to be our own Lord of our life. And when we talk about following Jesus and how he should be the Lord of our life, that can feel a bit threatening. Because right, we don't want to lose control. We don't want to lose who we are. We don't want to change who we are. We don't want to give up our passions or our dreams. And in reality, when it comes to our desire for control, when we really begin to flex those muscles, when we feel like we're losing our joy, our peace, our hope, our love, and those things are in jeopardy. But when those things are at stake, that is when we really try to manage the mess because we don't want to miss out on any of those things. And for some of us, that's what we feel like is at stake to lose when we think about following Jesus. We think we'll lose our joy, we'll lose our peace, we'll lose our hope and love when we start following Jesus. However, we realize that Jesus came so that we could actually have these things in a much bigger way than we've ever had them before. Everything changes. You see, Jesus didn't come to take all of those things away from you, but he actually offers you all of these things in a way where they will truly be fulfilled in him. Think about it this way. You aren't meant to be the one to keep it all together. Jesus is the one that holds all things together, all the big things and all the small things. Colossians 1:17 says, he, that is Jesus, is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Now this verse is talking about creation of the world, but it's also true for your life as well. You don't have to be the one who's holding all things together. And in all honesty, isn't that super hard to do? Doesn't that just feel like a super big weight to carry? That's because you aren't meant to be the one to keep it all together. Jesus does that. And so I want to encourage you as we're heading into the Christmas season, especially where we feel like we have to manage a lot of different things from our grades at the end of the semester, family expectations for the holiday seasons, putting together our best self for the rest of our extended family to see. I want to challenge you to loosen your grip on needing to control those things and place your trust in the King who holds all things together. And I promise you, it's not as bad as you think it may be. But as you are getting ready to talk in your small groups, I want to leave you with this question to be thinking about. Is there anything in your life right now you're trying to control that you really need to trust God with? While you're thinking about that, check out these announcements because we don't want you to miss what's going on in PTSM. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hey there, and happy holidays. Thanks for tuning in. Before we send you to small groups, we want to give you a quick update about what's going on in PTSM. First, Christmas is coming. Join Preston Trail for one of our 8 Christmas services on either December 22nd, 23rd, or the 24th. To RSVP for your family, feel free to click this QR code or click the link in the description. We can't wait to see you this Christmas. We also have a lot of opportunities to serve this Christmas. If you're interested in serving the body this holiday season, scan this QR code or check out the link in the description. We'd love for you to join us. 2023 is coming. This means a few things. One, this is the last home groups video of the semester. If you've missed any week of group, don't worry. All home group videos can be found on our YouTube channel. Ask your leader for help if you're having trouble finding it. 2, high def registration is going to be over super soon. Once the ball drops, i.e. midnight January 1st, the price for high def goes up and registration closes on January 17th. Go to highdef.life or click the link in the description to sign up. 3rd, the high school student section is live in the worship center. Come sit with us on Sunday mornings. Look for the big red signs. And with that, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. See you in the new year. Oh, and if you haven't written your letter to Santa yet, better get started on that. You don't want to miss out on an awesome gift because you forgot the post office gets backed up around Christmas. See ya!